welcome to the new agent in-home process call. Super excited to be going through this with you guys today. As I go through, if you guys have any questions, there's really no such thing as a silly question. But do me a favor, go ahead and jot it down as I may answer your questions as we kind of walk through this in-home process. So first and foremost, I always start with this pretty much in any training and every training. And the reason for that is because if you don't have your schedule, you don't have anything in this business. The hands down most important thing that you can have in this business is a consistent schedule. If you don't have a consistent schedule, you're not going to have consistent activity. You're not going to have a consistent result. So consistency is going to be key. If you're here full-time, a full-time FFL schedule looks like we're dialing on Monday and Thursday, and we're setting up appointments on Monday for Tuesday and Wednesday, on Thursday for Friday and Saturday. And now on Sunday, I use that as a bonus day. If I'm not hitting my goals, I'm in the field and I'm helping families on Sunday as well. So if you are a virtual and you're on this call, you want to think about everything as double. So up here on Monday, we see set 15 appointments for Tuesday and Wednesday. Now, if you're virtual, you want to think double the effort, double the lead expense as well. So you want to make sure that you're doubling in both of those arenas. Now, just to kind of move on, what I'm going to be hitting on this call is going to be mindset. If your mindset is misconceived, it's going to be really hard to go into a home and help a family. I'm going to hit on what do you physically need to go into the home. Third thing is going to be role and purpose. If there's one thing I hope you guys can take away from this call today, it's going to be that green box, that role and purpose, as that made waves in terms of what it looked like for me in home in this business. Next thing would be the financial inventory. Next would be asking questions. And the last thing I'll hit on is showing options or the close. But before I do that, some agent resources that are important to have to make sure you have access to anything and everything that you may need as a new agent. FFLWestCoast.com as well as FFLSolidity.com. You'll be able to find everything from your dial trackers, financial inventory, credibility sheets, quoting tools, everything and anything that you would really need as a new agent. Now here in this yellow box, FFL-go.com, this is something I've had bookmarked on my computer, my phone, my iPad, since I literally got started with Family First Life. If you go into that website, you'll see that it will bring you right to the quoting tools. It will bring you to a lot of the carriers, back office or application pages. Next thing you want to make sure you have, download the Next Level Plus app. That's an app through corporate, so Family First Life corporate app, and it just has some good information coming out. Last thing here on agent resources I want to hit on is if you are not in the Slack channel, you want to make sure you are. So reach out to your direct upline and ask them to go ahead and add you to the Slack channel. It's going to be extremely important. And now if you are in the Slack channel and you open up your Slack app, if you take a look, there's a channel called In-Home Help. In this channel, if for any reason you're not able to get your upline on the phone when you're in home, no big deal, not the end of the world. You can post in there and you'll see, I'm sitting here with John. He's 72 years old. He's not a smoker. He had a heart attack 5 years ago. He takes atorvastatin and lisinopril. What's the best way to go? And you're going to get an answer back. We refer to that person as the underwriting genie. Essentially, what that person's role and goal to do is to make sure that if an agent is indeed in home, that they have access to help at all times. And now going back to, let's just say, your upline doesn't answer, no one's answering you, which by the way, guys, it's not going to be very often that's going to happen unless you're doing it on purpose because you don't want to talk to your upline, which by the way, is not the best route. So we have what we call a new agent hotline. Now, what's the new agent hotline? What it does is it's going to dial out to 10 different people's phones that are top producers. So for example, if Carl picks the phone up and he calls that number right now, which please guys don't call the number. People do that all the time and I answer and they're like, oh, I just wanted to see if it worked. Like, don't do that. It does work. So take this number down on your phone, 888-236-7402. Again, that's 888-236-7402. When you call that number from in-home, you don't need to explain who you are. You don't need to explain like, hi, I work with Family First Life. We know exactly why you're calling. So you want to act just like you would calling your upline from the home. Hey, I'm sitting here with John. John's 72 years old. He's not a smoker. He had a heart attack 5 years ago. We're looking to cover his final expenses. The medications he takes is atorvastatin, 1 time a day, and lisinopril, 10 milligrams, 1 time a day. What's the best direction to go in? And then in that new agent hotline on the phone, the person's going to tell you which way to go, and you just go from there. So mindset. This is going to be like your mindset's going to be your best friend or your worst enemy. I encourage each and every one of you guys on here to make it your best, make it your biggest asset. Don't make it your worst enemy, right? We can sometimes get tripped up, but we have to actually think about the psychology behind this, right? Somebody filled a lead out in some way, shape, or form, right? You called that person, and now you're going to their house, or you have an appointment with them on the phone, and it like, is it even a question that they need help? No, right? They filled the form out, you called them, they said they booked the appointment, they said come over. Don't be weird when you go in. By the way, guys, I was weird for like my first year in the business, not literally, but my first couple of months, I was really weird. And it made them feel really weird, right? Vibes are a real thing. So when you're in home, you just want to remember you're there to help that family. You're literally doing your job. So whatever you were doing before this or what you're doing now with this, you want to think about it like, how do you take that stance from a mindset perspective of like, I'm just doing my job, right? Like if the doctor asks me, like I go into the doctor, tell them I'm not feeling well, and the doctor asks me, how long have you not been feeling well? I'm not going to be like, why are you wondering? Right? He's wondering or she's wondering because I'm there at the doctor's. They need to know these things, right? So you're there to help that family. Next thing would be you hold the license. So it would be a disservice to not be honest with the potential prospects. Now, of course, when I say honest, I mean ethically and morally. I think that should go without being said. But at the same time, disservice meaning, okay, I don't have any insurance, and you can think about it, Miss Mary, because I don't want to be disrespectful. It's way more disrespectful to leave Miss Mary unprotected than it is to say, all due respect, Miss Mary, but I'm not understanding, are we having a budget issue or or is it just that you don't really like me or trust me? And I ask all my clients that ever tell me something weird at the end. So you just want to remember, brutal honesty in the home is needed. You might be the only person that ever gets in front of that person to talk about life insurance. Now, you might be like, that's extreme, that's a stretch. It's really not extreme or a stretch at all. It's actually quite the opposite. If somebody has a bad experience with an agent, their next experience, there's probably not going to be one. So make sure that you're your best self when you go in there. Leave your personal baggage in the car. Also, in the car, or if you're doing telesales, leave your personal baggage at home, right? Like leave that at home. It's still going to be there when you get home. Self-talk is extremely important. You have to remember it's just a conversation, right? It's not that deep. Conversations I have with myself, in my car, for example, like if I'm feeling like any type of doubt ever, it's like, if anybody can help this family, it's you. I train my agents, look in your rear view mirror when you're about 2 to 5 minutes down the street. Tell yourself, I'm the best. I'm the best. If anybody can help this family, it's me, right? Because you're reinstilling confidence into yourself, and that is key. All we're doing, guys, and when we go into a home or when we're sitting or talking to a potential prospect, we're finding their problem, so to say, and we're finding a solution to that family's problem, right? So if the problem is that John doesn't have any life insurance to cover his final expenses, the solution may simply be Americo Eagle Premier, right? So the solution's the plan that you're offering to solve that problem. Now, if you're physically going into the home, what do you physically need? I get this question all the time. It's a very valid question. So for me, I do use a clipboard. You can call it whatever you want. You know what I mean? Like that's just what I'm used to, and I love my clipboard, okay? And here's why. So first and foremost, at the very top of my clipboards, I'm going to have the lead card. When I say the lead card, I just mean the PDF of the lead. It could say Internet Life Lead at the top. I don't care what it says at the top. That needs to come into the house with me. My state insurance license, I always have it laminated. So I simply just have that on the opposing side of my clipboard. So when I'm at, John and Mary's door and I'm holding the clipboard, the first thing that they're seeing is my state license that's laminated, right? Within my clipboard, I have a financial inventory for each and every home I'm going to go into, a credibility sheet for each and every home that I'm going to go into. And then you want to have your piece of technology, if you will, whether that's a computer, a tablet, an iPad, whatever you're using to make sure that you're getting it done in there. You want to make sure you have a stable internet connection. Now, sometimes, technology fails us, right? We might be in an area where there's just simply not any Wi-Fi, or, you can't get a connection, or your hotspot stops working, or your computer died, but whatever it might be, you always want to make sure you have a second plan or a plan B if that should happen. So paper applications are going to be important. Now, you guys might be like, paper applications? Like, guys, when I came into Family First Life not too long ago, like, guys, I had paper applications for like my first like 60 days. Like, it's not that deep unless you make it that deep. So if you are actually trying to get in there and get out there, make sure you have paper applications on you. You don't ever want to leave a family unprotected because you were unprepared, right? So 4 paper applications that you should have on you are going to be Mutual of Omaha's, their whole life, which is called Living Promise. Mutual of Omaha's Term Life, which is referred to as Term Life Express. If you're not muted, if you could go ahead and mute yourself out, that would be great. Thank you so much. The second 2 applications would be with CFG, or Colombian Financial Group. And those 2 applications would be their term app and their whole life app. If you don't have paper applications, reach out to your upline and let them know that you do need some paper applications before you get out there. Now, the last thing would be what I refer to as a leave behind sheet. So the leave behind sheet is really important because, as we all know, when we go in and we help a client with life insurance, there's nothing really tangible that we're leaving there, right? We're not leaving, the fancy new shoes, or, the fancy new watch there, right? We're leaving a peace of mind, okay? So the leave behind sheet, what this is going to entail of, it's going to entail of, at the top of it will be your personal information, such as your first name, last name, email, telephone number. Right below that will be the client's information, first name, last name, email, telephone number. And then below that, it's going to be an outline of the coverage that you guys did today. So for example, the carrier, let's just say, is America. So you'd write America, the product, let's just say, is Eagle Premier. And then you're writing in, the amount. If it's 10,000, does that accidental death? How much does it cost? And then you're having the client sign that, and you're signing that as the agent as well. And you're leaving that leave behind sheet with your client, but you are going to go ahead and take a photo of that. Now, you may ask me, why should I take a photo of the leave behind sheet? The leave behind sheet's almost going to be a crutch if you allow it to be. It's going to allow you to make sure that when you leave that home, A, the client knows exactly what you guys just talked about, right? B, the client knows that they have life insurance in place, so if anybody else calls them, they're less likely to be receptive. And C, when Mr. John or Miss Mary call you and they're like talking about their policy, it's going to be a heck of a lot easier for you to reference back to your leave behind sheet, and you're going to know exactly what that client has versus trying to work through multiple different portals trying to find Miss Mary's policy, right? That way you know exactly what it was, and you know, okay, in your planner, you sat down with Mary and John on January 26th, and now they're calling you. You can simply go back to your phone, or I empower you all to upload these and save them to your computer, your leave behind sheets, because it's essentially going to be your client list, right? So it's really important. All right, so I'm going to go through kind of what it looks like when I walk into a home and what it sounds like, so to say. So for the sake of this call, I'm going to act as if I'm working off of a final expense mailer. So I would simply sit down. I would simply knock on the door. So knock, knock. And let's just say we're sitting with John and Mary. Let's just say John opens the door. I'm going to say, hi, John, how are you? I'm Marysa. We had that appointment today, at 2 o'clock. How are you doing? Great. Shoes on or off? Typically, John's going to say, oh, you can keep them on. I'll be like, okay, great. And kitchen tables that way. When I say kitchen tables that way, guys, I want to be clear. I don't know where everybody's kitchen table is. Neither will you guys. But me saying kitchen tables that way is me telling John I need a table to do business at, right? So that's extremely important. So now when I sit down, I'm simply going to show John and Mary the lead card. I'm going to say, now, John, I know we spoke a little bit on the phone, but Mary, just to make sure, you're with me as well, we do remember filling this form out. They're going to say yes. If they say no and you're sitting in their house, like that's really weird. Like they're not going to say no. They're going to say yes. I'm going to say, okay, now John and Mary, people will typically fill these forms out for one of three reasons, okay? The first reason is they don't have any life insurance at all. The second reason is they already have life insurance. They're just looking to maybe add a little bit more. The third reason is they already have life insurance. They just want to make sure that they're not overpaying for it. Now, with that being said, which category do you guys fall within? And let's just say Mary says, I have life insurance, but John doesn't have any life insurance. So we're looking to get life insurance for John. All right, Mary, I hear you guys. Now, guys, this is the part that I'm going to go through that if you can do if there's one consistent thing in a house, it's what we're looking at right now. It's your role and purpose, right? What is your role and purpose going to do? Your role and purpose is going to set the structure in the home. It's going to let the client know who you are, what you're there to accomplish. It's going to allow you to be proactive versus reactive. Now, I empower each and every one of you guys to either ask your upline for a recording or go ahead and record my role and purpose right now. Type it out and make it your own. This is not something that's meant to be 20 minutes long. It's something that's meant to be anywhere from 30 seconds to 1 minute long so that you're setting the proper expectations for your client so that you're not going through the appointment and you feel weird and they feel weird because nobody's on the same page, right? So it's like if you put somebody on a bus and you don't tell them where you're going, that's kidnapping, right? We don't want to kidnap our clients. So role and purpose and a final expense appointment. And guys, you keep hearing me reference back to final expense appointment. You want to remember whether you're doing mortgage, internet, whatever it may be, it's a couple different tweaks of words, okay? All right, so I sat down with John and Mary. They remember filling the form out. We're at the kitchen table and say, all right, now John, Mary, before I go through anything with you guys, I do just want to tell you, who I am, my role, my purpose, and really what I'm here to help you guys to accomplish today. I'm what they call a field underwriter or a broker. And really what that means is I work together with several dozen companies that do these life insurance programs. So my job is to get you the lowest rate based off what we're looking to cover, if coverage is necessary at all. So I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about finances and plans that you guys may already have in place, and a little bit about your health, just to make sure whatever application we're taking today, we get you approved for that coverage and we don't get you declined, okay? And now, John and Mary, your jobs today really is to help me help you, meaning we all have a budget. I know I have a budget, I'm sure you have a budget, and the guy down the street has a budget. So we want to make sure whatever we're looking at today not only suits the need, but it suits the budget as well. We'll go ahead and take that application today, get it sent up to senior underwriting for final approval, and we usually have an answer back in about 1 to 5 days. Sound good? It's going to be very rare, guys, that somebody doesn't say yes. Now, what were the 3 things that I avoided there? I avoided the I need to think about it, right? I'm telling them we're taking the application today. I avoided I can't afford it, right? Because budget, I'm talking about their budget needs to be budget friendly right from the jump, because those are typically people's 2 biggest concerns. And then I'm avoiding I don't need this, because it's like you guys filled the form up for life insurance and you told me you don't have any. Obviously you need it, right? We all need it. So this is literally the only consistent thing that you can say in the home. Make it your own, write it out on a PDF. I literally, when I came into this business and I started working under the IMO umbrella, I made this this was I needed to know like my date of birth. Like if somebody woke me up in the middle of the night and had a gun to my head and said, I need your role and purpose right now, or everybody in here is dead, like everybody's good. We're good because I know it. But there was a time where I didn't. And guess what? That makes you feel a lot less confident in the home. So if you can learn one thing to make your confidence arise, and it's right from the beginning, it's going to be your role and purpose. So get it done, guys. So after you go through your role and purpose, you're going to jump right into your financial inventory. Now, if you don't know what a financial inventory is, again, I empower you to go onto FFL Solidity or FFLWestCoast.com. Take a look at that, because that's where a lot of our fact-finding questions are indeed found, from income to, what coverages are already in place, to are they working, do they have a mortgage, do they have other life insurance? It's all on that sheet, and it's beautifully put together. So once you complete your financial inventory, oftentimes this is where agents will make mistakes, and they'll be like, okay, so I'm just going to show you, boom, this is what we can do. And it's like, we did not ask enough questions. The financial inventory is a fact-finding process, and there are ways to make sure that you're essentially, doing small closes throughout that. But you also need to be aware that doing that and not asking appropriate questions is not going to work. So do your role and purpose, financial inventory, and then we're going to ask additional questions, because the importance of asking good questions is going to be the most important thing that you can do in this business. Now, when I came into the industry, was asking these questions easy? To be honest, no, it was really, really uncomfortable. But as I kept asking them and getting a better result and helping more people, I realized, wow, I'm simply just building more value, right? Because when value exceeds price, people buy, right? If we're just sitting there making this transactional, there's no emotion involved. There's no emotion tied to it. We don't even know what it's going to look like. So the way I look at it is the client has to sell me on why they need insurance before I'm showing them anything. So I just completed my financial inventory. Again, I'm sitting with John and Mary. So you're going to see I go off of a who, what, when, where, why, how kind of basis. And you'll see kind of those questions through the fact-finding process. Again, guys, these questions are not always easy, but they're necessary. And I think about it like this, like I've been in this industry for 7 years, and I've had this conversation now only maybe 2 times with my loved ones of what it would look like. And that's because I pushed it. Because I'm like, I have this conversation with people every single day, but I don't even know what's going to look like for my own family. I'm a hypocrite, right? So you have to think about that. Just like you may be the only person that's ever going to be able to come into this person's house and talk to them about life insurance, you need to take it seriously, right? So let's jump into it. So we just finished the financial inventory. All right, so John, if you died last night, who's predominantly impacted? And if we're sitting with John and Mary, he's going to say Mary. Okay, and Mary, what does that look like for you? And now, oftentimes, guys, John might start talking. He would say, well, blah, blah, blah. Okay, hey, John, all due respect, but right now we're talking about what would it look like, if something had happened to you last night? Like, what does that look like? And then I allow Mary to answer. And typically Mary's like, I don't know. Okay, well, Mary, where would you go if something happened, to John last night? Like, talk to me about what does that look like? And then they'll typically start talking. They'll be like, maybe, I don't know, it would be hard for me to keep up with the bills. Also, like covering his, final expenses, I wouldn't be able to do that. So we might have to do a GoFundMe or something like that. Okay, and Mary, you meant, and where would you go? I would go to my sister's house. Okay, and Mary, what does that look like for you? Like, and guys, if they have small children, you want to be talking about, would the kids have to change school systems, right? That's a big deal. For those of you out there who have children, that's a big deal. For me, my mom wanted to move when I was in high school. I was like, oh no, we can't move. I literally had like a nervous breakdown about it, because I was like, I don't want to change school systems, right? So it's like, what does that look like for you, Mary? If they have kids, what does it look like for the kids? And guys, when I say kids, I mean people that are, dependent upon them. Okay, and now Mary, how would you pay the bills without John's income? Typically, guys, the answer is I wouldn't be able to pay the bills without John's income. Okay, well, Mary, now I know why I'm here, right? If I just pulled all that out, is John really not going to cover his wife? Like, is he really not going to make sure he has the coverage for his wife? Of course he is, right? Unless he hates me. That's the only reason he wouldn't do it, right? But at that point, typically they realize I care about their family. And when I'm sitting with people, and I empower you guys to do this as well, look at them like it's your, whatever the age bracket is, like it's your brother, your sister, your mother, your grandmother, your cousin, your friend's mother, right? Whatever you have to do to make sure that you're viewing this person not like a sale, you're viewing them like a potential client that needs help, right? So don't go in there with commission breath. People can smell it, and it smells worse than really bad breath. So don't go in there with that. So if you do not ask questions in the fact-finding process, do not expect a yes from your client. There was absolutely no value built, right? Like if somebody was like, "Hey, do you want to have $20,000 when you die and you pay $250 a month?" Like that's not a good enough explanation, right? Like I don't even know what you're talking about, right? Now I have to think about it. So these questions right here, we're avoiding. I need to think about it, right? That's the biggest thing. Now, once you get through all of this, right? And it's like, okay, John and Mary, now I know exactly why I'm here. If something happens tomorrow, there's no final expense coverage, never mind protecting John's income. We don't even have the funeral arrangements covered. So bare minimum, we're going to get those covered today. So here's what I'm going to do, guys. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give my senior field underwriter a call to make sure I'm going in the best direction. Now I'm going to call my upline from the home. Ring, ring, ring. And let's just say Christina answers. Hey, Christina, it's Marysa. I'm sitting here with John and Mary. John is 72 years old. He is a non-smoker. He had a heart attack 5 years ago. No major, nothing major since then, no hospitalizations. He takes lisinopril, 10 milligrams, 2 times a day for high blood pressure. And he takes atorvastatin for his cholesterol. What's the best direction to go in? And now Christina's going to say, go, you can go Americo Eagle. Okay, great. So I'm going to pause right there. So guys, here in this red box, call your upline from the home. If you don't call from the home, nobody can help you once you leave the home. Like once you leave the home, you left the home. You're gone, you're out. Like we don't know if the client, 99 to 1 are not ever going to let you back in. And the people that tell you that they have to think about it, don't believe them because they don't have to think about it. It's a you problem, right? And calling your upline from the home is very common for your first 50 to 100 appointments. To be quite honest, whether you've been in this industry or you haven't been in this industry, you should still be calling from the home those first 50 to 100 appointments to make sure you are going in the best direction. Because whether you are working under a different product line or you've never worked with insurance before in your life, it's extremely important that you call. So call from the home and, get done what you need to get done. So last thing I want to hit on here, sometimes people will be like, I'm going to lose credibility. They're going to think I'm stupid or, fill in the blank with, what X limiting belief, right? And here's the thing. Whenever I've called from the home, and guys, I have called from the home, it's just been a long time. It's like, I typically make it like a more credible situation. John, Mary, I know exactly what direction to go in. I'm just going to give my senior field underwriter a call just to make sure we are indeed going in the best direction today for you and your family, okay? And usually they're like, oh my God, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Like, that was so kind because you're going the extra mile for them and that's how they're viewing it as they should. So now let's just say I got off the phone with Christina. Christina said, Americo Eagle Premier is going to be the best way to go. What I'm going to do, guys, I'm going to write out 3 different options and I'm going to explain all 3. I do want to emphasize on this. When I'm saying 3 different options, I do not mean 3 different companies. I mean 3 different amounts, right? So if I'm writing Americo Eagle with 3 different options, option A might be 10,000, option B might be 20,000, and option C might be 40,000, right? So that's what I'm talking about when I say 3 different options. I also want to note when you're writing out your options, I write them out on the back of my financial inventory. I like to keep everything all together. And I do not write the cost next to it until I explain everything, right? So I'm going to write out, let's just say for John, I'm going to write out $10,000, $20,000, and $40,000 of coverage. So option A, I'm going to show John, okay, so John, this is going to be our most basic plan, our starter plan. Option A would be covering you for $10,000 in the event of any cause of death. That would always be there for Mary. In the event of an accidental death, a slip and fall, a car accident, any type of accidental death, it's going to go ahead and it's going to pay out $20,000. Any questions on that? And they're like, no. And I'm like, so that makes sense? Yes. You guys, you want to get them on the yes train. Does that make sense? Do you understand why that's important, right? You want to get them on the yes train. Option B, this one, John, would be covering you for $20,000. So we're taking inflation into account, John. As we all know, the cost of water is going up each and every day. Unfortunately, so is the cost of funerals, right? So this one's going to make sure that you're covered, for $20,000 in the event of any cause of death. That will always be there for Miss Mary. Now, in the event you should pass accidentally, it would pay out $40,000, okay? And this one's going to make sure that your burial is completely taken care of, and there might be a little bit left over depending on what that inflation really looks like, okay? And now option C is going to be covered. And again, guys, you want to be like, any questions? Does that make sense? As I'm going through this, I'm going really slow and steady to make sure that they're following me, because these are extremely simple concepts. We don't want the client to overcomplicate the concept either, right? So so after I show all three options and I explain them and they tell me that they all make sense and they don't have any other questions, now I'm going to put how much they cost, okay? So now I'm going to put, let's just say option A is $70, option B is $150, and option C is $300. Now, guys, don't quote me on those numbers. I just pulled them out of thin air, okay? So I'm going to write those next to, so option A equals $70, option B equals $150, option C equals $300. And now I'm going to flip the sheet back to them. I'm going to say, now, being that everything makes sense, which it looks like it does, and you saw the need for it, which one feels best to cover Mary, both budget to need wise? And then you have to stop talking. Like, the biggest downfall of a lot of agents is they keep talking after they ask the closing question. So there's no more closing question after that, right? You already, you know what I mean? Like you keep talking. Ask the question however you want to. You can say, which one would you like? However, you've got to phrase it until you feel comfortable, but stop talking after you ask the closing question. Sometimes they simply just need a minute or two to process which option they want to take. That's normal, guys. You might feel like you've been sitting there for 10 minutes. Well, I don't know, act like, like you're back in grade school and you have to be quiet for 10 minutes because your teacher just puts you in timeout. Like, just stop talking. It's going to help you, okay? And typically they'll just pick one. Now, if they're asking you like, hey, hey, Tamara, from your stance, which one you think would be best from what I explained, of course you can talk to them then, but do not talk to them after the closing question. Let them answer which one feels best to cover Mary, both budget to need wise, right? And they're like, boom, option B. Okay, perfect. Now, John, I need you to just grab your driver's license, avoided check. We're going to get that application going. When you say it like that, guys, I just need you to grab your driver's license, avoided check. We're going to get that application going. Put your head down, put your head back down and log into, in this case, America, right? And get your stuff up and going. If you make it no big deal, it's no big deal to the client. If you make it a big deal, you better believe it's going to be a big deal to the client. If you're like, now, John, Mr. Smith, right? All of a sudden you go from John to Mr. Smith. Now, Mr. Smith, I will need your social security number and I will need your driver's license and I will need your banking information. Like, now you're being weird. You just called him Mr. Smith and you were asked, like, keep it, guys, we're just people helping people, literally, right? So if your applicant is approved on the spot, as we know, we have a lot of companies that do instant decision, which is amazing. Let them know that they're approved on the spot. Congratulations, John. I always give them a high five. Like, you've been approved right on the spot. Now, if it gets sent to underwriting, no big deal. If they're not approved in the home, you want to let them know, hey, John, no big deal. So, Aetna went ahead and they sent this up to underwriting. Like I mentioned in the beginning, we usually have an answer back in about 1 to 5 business days. If for any reason, John, they were to decline you, which I don't foresee, we would just go in a different direction, okay? So again, you want to keep your client in the loop as to what is going on. So circling back now to this green box, fill out a leave behind form. So the leave behind form is what I touched on in the beginning. That's that piece of paper that you're going to leave an outline of exactly what you guys talked about and did that day. From, so you wrote John, let's just say you picked option B. You wrote John with Americo Eagle Premier, $20,000 for $150 a month. If he dies accidentally, it's $40,000. It's a whole life plan. John signs it and dates it. You sign it and date it. And now you want to take a photo and leave that with the client and take a photo of it for your personal records. Again, it's much easier to go back and look at these forms when they're actually organized by the person versus if you're just leaving them behind and you're like, what is John looking at right now? Well, you can know exactly what he was looking at if you stayed tuned, right? So make sure that you leave that and you also snap a photo. You want to tell them what to expect, right? So what I mean by that is if the client is approved, you want to tell them, okay, now, John, as I mentioned in the application, you want to expect to see that draft for that $150 here, in 1 to 3 business days. With today being the 9th of the month, it's automatically going to just reoccur on the 9th of every month. You'll see that automatic deduction come out of your account. Now, you will receive the policy in the mail. The carriers typically ask for about 1 to 2 weeks just to get that finalized and in the mail for you. So you want to expect that packet to come in the mail. Okay. Now, if they're not approved, guys, you want to tell them, same thing, except you want to let them know, I'm going to give you a call as soon as I know that the application's approved. Once it's approved, you're telling them, John, we got an approval this morning. This is like, you want to expect that draft, right? Next thing or last thing I would leave you guys with is you want to prep your client so that they're going to be working with you. You're their life insurance agent for life. And if anybody calls them about life insurance, tell them to call you. So what do I mean by that? So if I'm sitting down with John and Mary and we're wrapping things up, I'm gonna say, all right, now, John, Mary, I know that sometimes you can get a lot of phone calls, when you're looking for something like life insurance. So I just want to make sure that you guys are clear and I'm clear as well. Anything that we're looking at today, I'm your agent. So if anybody else reaches out to you, it's not from me or my company. If for any reason I left the company, you would be notified and you'd be assigned a new agent. But I don't anticipate doing that. So if anybody keeps calling you, just tell them to call me. And what I do at that point is I get up and I put my business card on their refrigerator. I do that because they're always going to have easy access to it. I'm also going to staple one to my leave behind form. The last and final thing that I'm going to do, and that you probably see in the Slack channel, is I'm going to take a selfie with John and Mary. Now, there's a couple of reasons for this. A, sure, it keeps it fun. Absolutely. But B, what it's going to do for your client is it's going to I'm going to snap a selfie with John and Mary. And this is exactly how I say it. Now, John, Mary, last thing before I truly get out of your way, we usually take a selfie with our clients. Would you guys mind taking a selfie with me? And they're always willing to take the selfie with you. I have 1 out of 10 people, and it's usually like the woman that's not ready, or like the guy that's just doesn't want to be in the picture. You know what I mean? No big deal. But what I'm going to do there, after I have the photo on my phone, I'm going to send it to John's phone. I'm going to send it to Mary's phone if I'm with the couple, or just to whatever, you know what I mean? To both of their phones, or to your one client's phone. And now I'm going to say, now, John, if John's 72 years old and he's not that tech savvy, I'm going to say, John, let me go ahead and save the contact in your phone. Now, if he is tech savvy, I'm going to say, John, go ahead and save my contact in your phone. Let's do it together. Now, what I'm doing here, guys, I'm making the contact picture the photo that me, John, and Mary just took. Now, why do I do that? You might think. Why does that even matter? Now, if John and Mary pick the phone up to cancel, every single time that they pick the phone up to call me, they're going to see that picture of all of us smiling, and they're going to go back to we don't know what Mary would do if John doesn't have life insurance in place. So they're a lot less likely to cancel. If you could snap a selfie and you're going to have even a 5% less fall off rate, would you do it? Yeah, I mean, I do. So I'm just saying that's going to be huge. And that way also, you know who you're talking to. When they call you, you remember them as well, which is very helpful for me. Because once you have, you might be thinking I'm not going to have that many clients. Well, I'm going to need you to remove that limiting belief and realize you are going to have a heck of a lot of clients. So you're not always going to be able to, remember everybody, especially after a span of time. So those photos absolutely help. So that's pretty much what the in-home process looks like. Guys, it's not meant to be intimidating. You don't have to you don't have to act smarter than you are. You don't need to know all the products. Please, if you care about yourself, you will not hinder yourself with too much product knowledge. All you need to know in your first, couple weeks out there in the field is what whole life does and what term life does. If there's any cross between those, reach out to your upline, utilize the Slack channel, utilize the people around you guys. We're all here to help.